Are you ready? Can Crushers. It don't really get no better than this the podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers, let's go.
Hi, this is your favorite pageant queen, the glamorous Amherst Blair, and you are listening to Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, the Spotlight Edition. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez, and I hoped you enjoyed the last two episodes, essentially both being specials, one with a new film coming out soon called Whoop Ass. Make sure you check that out, wrestling related, and me and Sir Michael Jenks talking about our favorite theme songs. But this is a special episode as well because we have Mr. Main Event himself, the show, CJ Evans, coming on to talk about wrestling, which that's what we do here at Can Crushers. We talk about wrestling. This is going to be a good one. CJ, also 1/3 of Infamous. We'll have to talk to him about that. Shout out to our girl, CeCe Young, for hooking this interview up as well. But there's so much I want to know about CJ, and there's a comparison that I think that I am dead nuts on. You know, you guys listen to the Spotlights all the time, and I'm like, well, maybe this, that, and the other. I think I have CJ money in the bag. I think I got this one, and yeah, we're gonna get ready to go. But of course, we have to take care of the bills first. Collar and elbow, hats, hoodies, tees, all the cool stuff that Al Snow and the Hooligans have down there. Make sure you go and buy it all up. You heard me talk for years about how amazing Collar and Elbow is. Buy the heck out of it, and when you check out, use the promo code CANCRUSHERS. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. You'll save 10% off your entire order. Don't forget, we have merch over at CrowdMade as well. So check out CrowdMade, type in Can Crushers on their search, and you'll be able to see our hoodies, our sweatshirts, our t-shirts, our tanks if you're a tank top wearer. I'm still not a tank top wearer, by the way, just to let you know. And if you're looking for any new WWE apparel, use our promo code, our affiliate code that we have in the show notes. We're very transparent when we talk about the WWE because sometimes you'll get a discount and sometimes you don't. And I always say, hey, you know you're going to spend $40, $50 on a Roman Reigns shirt or an LA Knight shirt or whatever. The cool thing is you listen to Can Crushers and you want to help us out. So use that affiliate code. It helps us out. All right? Sometimes you get a discount. Sometimes you won't. Guys, you also know that I live off of W. I'm energized right now actually doing this because of W. W is an awesome energy drink. No calories, no crash, no carbonation, which is amazing for me right now. Tons of different flavors out there. I like Beach and Cream Callow Cream or Beach and Peach. I have mixed them together, by the way. They're amazing. Check out W for their energy line. It's really cool. They do have a sampler pack out there for $20, and we can get you 10% off of everything again by using a promo code CANCRUSHERS. It's that cool. You know where you can listen to us everywhere. And don't forget, we have the audio version on YouTube as well. So subscribe, like, share, do all that. People always ask, man, I really love your podcast. What can I do? Share it. That's amazing with it itself. Go ahead and give us a share. You also want to go, if you're listening like on Spotify or Apple or any of those ones, give us a rating if you like us so much. Give a little words. It really means a lot to us. So call to action out there, guys. If you like this episode with CJ Evans, the show, CJ Evans, head over to where you're listening and give us a little rating and a little comment because it helps us out. And it's free to do, which is really awesome. So thanks very much. Don't forget to join us on Facebook, Instagram, or X to join some conversations. DM us, ask us some questions. We'll love to answer them on air on our weekly Saturday morning show. So yeah, let's do all that cool stuff. Listen, you can also send us an email, cancrusher69@gmail.com. We'll answer anything that comes through there as well. Wrestlers, promoters, referees, ring announcers, this is to you guys. You want a spotlight like Mr. CJ Evans that you're going to hear in a couple seconds. Reach out to me. We'll schedule down the line. We make it around your schedule. We know you are the busy guys. We are the guys sitting behind the mics and the computer. Reach out. We would love to have you on the show. We want to hear your story. Why did you get into professional wrestling? Tell us about some matches. I might do some homework on you. I don't know. But enough about Can Crushers, because we know you love Can Crushers, and we're back with a spotlight. So take a quick break, and then we're going to jump right back into the interview with the show, CJ Evans.
Hey y'all, I'm CC Young. You're listening to Can Crushers. Don't you change the station. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Can Crushers, folks. You heard how excited I was in the intro to talk about another member of Infamous. That's 2 out of the 3 that we've had on the show. But this one is the main event. He is the show, Mr. CJ Evans. CJ, how the hell you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Very thankful that you wanted to bring me on, and I'm looking forward to all the questions and the answers and the interview and stuff. It's going to be really awesome.
This is the meat and potatoes, CJ, of these shows are so everybody that, you know, you're located in North Carolina, you go to South Carolina, you go to Georgia, you know, you trickle around there. I want people in California to know about you. I want you booked on a show up here in Pennsylvania so I can give you a high five and be the 4th member of Infamous, because that's what I'm trying to be. You realize that, right?
Yes, sir. And trust me, I'm grinding as much as I can. I'm trying to go to as many states and as many places as possible. So I'd love to make that happen.
Congratulations, by the way. Just saw recently you've hit 6 years in the professional wrestling business. That's an accomplishment.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It's definitely been a wild ride, but I wouldn't change it for anything because I feel like everything that's happened's made me who I am today. So I'm very happy and thankful to be celebrating 6 years, and I'm hoping to celebrate many, many more after.
6 years wear and tear. How do you shoot right now? How do you feel sometimes before we get into the main questions? How do you feel 6 years in the business? Because some people don't make it that long.
I really feel like that on a broad scale that I'm in pretty good shape and pretty good condition to be 6 years in. I've had my fair share of injuries and my share of like surgeries that I've had to have, but overall, I mean, I can still do pretty much everything that I could do before because, you know, it just takes a little bit more preparation beforehand. Like I like to do certain stretches that help me and a lot of, certain exercises in the gym that help me to be able to perform the way I do in the ring. So, I mean, like I said, it's got a lot of wear and tear on it, but it's not hindering me from stepping up my game and going to a new level on, time wise down the road.
Right. I like that you bring up stretches. We're completely off topic than normal, but that's just the way the Can Crushers podcast goes. Do you have a ritual essentially before, matches or, whole match day? Do you have a ritual that you go through?
I wouldn't say that it's a ritual, but it is. And it's kind of back and forth because it's certain stretches that I try my best to always get in before a training session or a actual show. But it's basically like my knees. I've had surgery on both my knees. So I have to do like certain, I do like a little bit of yoga stuff that helps me with like relieving the pressure off my joints. And then on top of that, like there's a Japanese sitting position where, you see them sit on their knees.
Okay.
If you'll notice that in a lot of my matches before a match starts, I'll be in that position before because it helps relieve pressure off my joints and my knees. Because I mean, to start with, when you first start doing it, it's painful and it puts a lot of pressure, sitting on your feet like that. But once you stretch it out and continue on, it actually starts to feel better, and it's helped me a lot with, more mobility in my legs, along with just the typical stretches, like, like stretching, touching your toes, trying to, keep your feet apart and stretch out to get your lower back. And then just little stuff like that, to activate your hip flexors and stuff like that.
Would you recommend yoga to a 47-year-old, little bit overweight garbage man?
I mean, absolutely. Yoga is good for everybody, man. I mean, like, I don't dabble in it as much as I should because I'll be honest, I really want to get more into it because I have a lot of friends in the wrestling world that do it like as like a religious thing. Like, they're very, like, when I say religious, I mean, they are like, they do that stuff every day. They're going to hit it hard every time. And it helps them with their flexibility and their mobility. So it's like, I really need to get better about it, but I have started dabbling more in it, trying to get more into it to be more flexible. I've even been looking at the DDP yoga because
I was just going to bring that up. I honestly was just going to bring that up.
Yep. That's what I've been looking at because, I mean, the way he does it, the style he does it is not your typical yoga. It's like he adds in a lot of a workout aspect to it. So it's like you can go do a 30-minute DDP yoga session and feel like you've been through an hour-long workout. And it's really crazy to think that you could do that without weight and still be sweating and stuff as bad as you are. But it's insane, man. It's pretty high interval stuff when it comes to, getting the reps in and the certain stretches and stuff. And for somebody like me who is just now dabbling into yoga, it's a whole new world for sure.
And that's what scares me. That's why I haven't pulled the trigger on the whole disc set, because I'm like, man, my knees, my shoulders, they're already creaking and everything. Do I want to feel like, listen, and I'm not saying there's not other jobs, but garbage is a rough job. Garbage is a rough job. I feel like crap sometimes when I get home, CJ, and I'm like, man, oh man, do I want to feel like crap even more? Or is DDP going to not make me feel like crap after I do it once I get home?
I'll be honest with you, from my experience with it, it seems like that it helps knock out a lot of soreness for me, because if I have like some kind of big show on a Saturday and then I take Sunday as a rest day, by Monday, and you know how it is, it's like the second day after your exercises when you're really sore. So like come up Monday, I'm sore as crap from over the weekend, and then a session of DDP yoga usually helps me out, and it usually knocks out the soreness for me. I mean, like, granted, it sucks, going into it because you're like, I don't feel like doing this today. I done worked all day and now I got to go do this. But after it's over with, you're very thankful and you're like, all right, you know what? I actually feel better now than I did before I started. So it sucked going into it, but at least it's over now and I feel better.
Maybe with that 5 minutes that we just talked about DDP yoga, once we both tag him, he'll say, oh my God, these guys are doing a stint for me right now. I should just both send them a copy. So hopefully that works.
Absolutely. I'm down to get any kind of help I can in any way to learn from a legend for sure.
I agree. All right, let's do the rewind and get to the meat and potatoes of this. How did you discover professional wrestling? Mom, Dad, Aunt Sally, Uncle Joe, like, who said this is the greatest thing in the world? Love it.
Well, it's funny because my story is a little bit different than normal people. Like, a lot of people, they're going to go and they're going to tell you, oh, well, such and such got me into it when I was this age and this, that, and other. Mine's a little bit different. It's similar because I did get into wrestling at a young age, but I started out watching wrestling when I was 5 years old. My mom and my granny would sit in the living room and we would sit there, and every Monday and Friday night we would turn on wrestling, and my mom ordered all the pay-per-views. But the funny thing is that my mom had been a wrestling fan for years before I was ever born. And then she had got out of it because, like, she just kind of, how it always happens.
Everybody trickles away. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she kind of she trickled away a little bit. And then when I was born, I'm, watching TV and stuff. And next thing I know, wrestling comes on and I start getting really into it. My mom, she tells me, she's like, well, son, I was into that years ago. She's like, I used to be a big fan of all these people and stuff. So then she started watching it with me as like a family bonding thing. Then my granny, she hadn't been a wrestling fan before, but she got to be one because of me and my mom watching it every week. So then she got into it.
That's
So
awesome.
then, like, it was awesome, man. Every week it was like me, my mom, and my granny were sitting in the living room. We're watching Monday Night Raw. We're watching Friday Night SmackDown. Pay-per-views come on Sunday. We're ordering the pay-per-views. I got to go to a few live events that my mom took me to for like my birthday and stuff like that throughout the years. But it definitely was, it was a fun experience because like my mom loved John Cena. That was her favorite person. And then my granny loved Batista. That was hers. So it was just like, it was just awesome having a whole family sitting here watching the same thing and enjoying it because it's like we didn't watch, football on Sunday. We was watching Monday Night Raw. So it was just a really fun time, good family atmosphere in that end.
Listen, the rest of the podcast, I don't care what you say, CJ. I really don't, because I also have dad moments on the show, and you just gave me the greatest dad moment because I love those. I love that. If you do, and this is not being snideful whatsoever, if you do nothing else in professional wrestling, and I know you're going to do a ton, that memory of you, mom, and granny watching wrestling should just fulfill your life, because that's what my grandfather got me into it. In Raw and everything, when I was younger, it was only like Saturday nights. So I would make sure I was over there with Grandpa at 6:05 to watch NWA on TBS. In those memories, I remember more of that stuff, sitting with him yelling at Ric Flair, compared to some matches today, because they're core memories. And I love that you shared that with us, so thank you.
Yes, and like I said, it's definitely a blessing on my end because of being able to just have that to look back on and see where I started to where I am now.
Right.
It's just a crazy advancement. You know what I mean? Like, because I think about when I was 5 years old, I dreamed of doing this, and I said to myself, like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler when I get older. And then it's like now I look back and I have kids coming up to me at my table and coming up to me at the shows and saying like, "Oh, you're my favorite" and stuff. And I'm just like, it just hits me a different way because I remember when I was that kid. So it's like it's definitely a blessing to me to have that, and that's one major reason why I do it is because I wouldn't be where I am now without having kids and like having kids support me, having parents support me. I mean, I try my best to do everything I can to put on the best performance I can at every show, whether it's in front of 5 people or 5,000 people. I'm gonna do the best job I can do, and I wouldn't change that for the world.
You bring up the kids, and again, you're winning podcast of the year right now as we speak, and we're a little bit in, because that's what this is for. I know there's 47-year-olds like me, or there's olders, or there's 20-year-olds to get into this, but you're doing it right already. Like I said, a little bit into this podcast, you're explaining it all. It's to the next level. So when the first kid came up and said, "You're my favorite," to you, okay, what was that? How was that reaction? Being so, because listen, we just congratulated you on 6 years, and that's still a baby in professional wrestling. How did that feel when he says, "You're my favorite wrestler. I want to be like you when, I grow up"?
To me, it was like a feeling that, like, I've won championships, I've debuted in other states, I've done some pretty cool things that I get to hang my hat on saying that I've done in the wrestling world. And I feel like I've achieved a lot in a short time, but that feeling is its own entity. It sits in my mind, and it's like there's days that I don't feel like going to the gym, and there's days that I don't feel like going to training, and there's days that I'm just really burnt. And I think back to that those kids and those people coming up to me saying, "I'm your biggest fan. I want to be like you when I grow up." And then it motivates me and drives me to be better and push myself harder because I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it for them and me and a bunch of other reasons. So it's like, it's definitely, it's not really a feeling I can put into words as much as it is like a drive and motivation that sits in my heart that carries me through when I'm having, doubt or, depression and stuff like that. It's definitely a motivation to me in the wrestling world.
It is. I've shared this story before, that, I do some ring announcing and some commentary up here in Pennsylvania as well. But over the years, I've just been, and I don't mean this mean, I've just been the ring announcer, There was a kid that came up on the show poster. He's like, "Man, I really like the way you do this. And I'm like, oh, thanks. And I thought nothing of that. I thought he was going to turn and walk away. He then turned and came back. He's like, oh, I forgot to ask, can I have your autograph on the show poster? I'm like, this is unbelievable. I am the ring announcer. I am the commentary guy. I never thought, at an independent level, and I'm not being mean again, like JR is unbelievable, Tony Schiavone is unbelievable, Pat McAfee, we'll name the bigs. Yeah, I want their autographs as well. But just to have a little 5-6-year-old said, I like what you're doing, will you sign the show poster? I'm like, holy crap. That's my number one thing in professional wrestling. I'm like, unbelievable. I signed one poster in my career, and that kid wins.
And see, that to me, it goes a long way, because I feel like people look at wrestling as it's just the wrestlers, but they don't see all the other people and all the other help that go into making that show take place. And it's like the fact that that kid took the time to acknowledge that gives you drive and motivates you to want to keep pushing yourself, because it's like other people are involved in a wrestling show than just the wrestlers. Like, yeah, the wrestlers are the forefront guys that we see the majority of the time, but what about the refs? What about the ring announcers? What about the timekeepers? What about the sound guy? What about the person, the promoter, the booker? I mean, there's other people that go into this that you might not necessarily see that deserve a lot of credit into putting that cool show or that really good event together.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. I'm glad a wrestler
absolutely.
said that. That's unbelievable. All right, so we know Mom loved John Cena and Granny loved Batista, by the way. I've fallen in love with your grandma, by the way, already.
Yeah,
But who are some of your favorites growing up?
So, I mean, I had a pretty vast, like a big selection to choose from, because I was growing up right at, like, when I got into wrestling, it was right around the time of the Attitude Era going into like the 2000s. So it's like I had, different people from different styles that I like, but the big person that really got me invested in wrestling, that when I saw it, this was like the first guy that I was like, this is, who my idol is. This is who I look up to. It was Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was my big top guy first. That he was like the guy that I really always wanted to see win, and wanted to see him win the, opportunities and belts. And another big one was, I would probably say, AJ Styles was a big one, even though, because I started out watching WWE, and then as I got more into wrestling and become more of a fan, I started branching out and looking at some TNA stuff, and that's when I saw AJ Styles, and he was a big influence on my part, because just watching him over the few years that I've been watching wrestling, it's like it doesn't matter where he goes, he is an amazing talent, and it's like it doesn't matter how old that he is, or like over the time span of how long he's been wrestling, he's still going, he's still making it to the top regardless, in every show, in every promotion. As he was a top guy in TNA, he's a top guy in WWE. He just went to Japan and won a match a couple weeks ago, and it's insane that he is such a good talent everywhere he goes, and it just really gives me like an idea of how I want to be going into wrestling. Like, I want to be great everywhere that I work. I don't care if it's the top, the middle, the bottom. I just want to be the best of the best and prove it to people.
Yeah. By the way, knocking it out of the park about what we talked about prior to coming on the show. Just saying, if you know what I mean.
Thank you.
Yeah. So growing up, at 5, you decided, you're going to be a wrestler. We all have that thought at 5. What did you do, sports-wise, to kind of acclimate your body for wrestling then, essentially, knowing you were going to be a wrestler?
So this is pretty much the funny part of the story. I did something similar to how the Hardy Boys did, because I specifically remember watching the Twist of Fate documentary, where it was Matt and Jeff talking about how before they got signed, they had went and turned their trampoline into a wrestling ring, and they ended up going to like fair shows and this, that, and other. My story was very similar, because me and a group of my friends from school, we started, turning my trampoline into a wrestling ring. We started, doing little stuff like practicing moves and stuff on the trampoline, like just coming up with our own little characters then. And then once I got to about, I believe I was around 13, 14 years old, and there was a place about 20 minutes from my house in Carthage, North Carolina, and it runs, at the time it was called Power Pro Wrestling. They ran every Saturday night in this little building in the fairgrounds area. And the ring stayed up. They had an entranceway. They had a light rack. They had like TVs into the wall. I mean, it was like for it to be, back in the day, it was really like up there in indie shows, because at the time a lot of indie shows didn't have all that, but that place did. And I used to go up there every Saturday night with my mom, and we would watch wrestling. And finally, I was like 13, 14 years old. I asked the promoter, because I mean, I'd become a regular at this point. I'd been coming up there every Saturday for several months. And I finally just asked him, I said, look, man, like, I'm wanting to take this, like, don't get me wrong, like doing this stuff with my friends on the trampoline is fun, but I'm trying to like make this something. I don't want to just be a backyard wrestler. I want to be a professional wrestler. Like, how do I get into it? And he's like, oh, we run training twice a week here, every Tuesday and Thursday. And I'm like, well, I want to sign up for that. And then my mom ended up having to sign a waiver for me because I wasn't 18.
Right.
So at 13, 14 years old, I wasn't in college football. I wasn't in college, I wasn't in high school football or high school wrestling or baseball. I was going to school in the day, coming home, doing my homework, getting everything caught up, then turn around going to wrestling training at 13 years old, learning how to bump, do rolls, do the drills. And, that's kind of when it initially started for me.
Did mom say once your grades, trickled off, and I'm not saying your grades did trickle off, but were you always worried if you were eligible, I'll put it that way, to go to training?
That was always a thing with my mom. Like, my mom was always really cool about allowing me to do things. Like, she was always real understanding that this is what I wanted to do, and she realized that this was my passion. This wasn't just some, stupid little thing I wanted to do, that this was like, it meant something to me. And she told me, she's like, I'm going to sign for you to do this. She's like, but do not let your grades drop in school because of it. Because if they do, then until they come up, you're not going to be going to training, which thankfully, I never had that issue. I had really good grades in school, and I never had to miss a training session. But at the same time, it definitely gave me more drive not to mess up in school, because I mean, I would go to school and I would be sore as crap. I would be tired, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't slip up in school, because then that meant that was going to hinder me from achieving what I wanted to be.
Yeah, mom was always in the back of your head saying, you fail this test, you're not going to training.
Yes, sir. That's exactly how it was.
So you talked about when you were doing, and I'm going to call it backyard stuff or trampoline stuff or whatever, but when you were doing, your trampoline backyard stuff, did you record any of it? Did you put on full shows? Did you have a crowd? Is it available to watch? Because they're fun. They really are fun to watch.
So the way we had it was, we did do like little shows where like my friends and family would come to watch. Like, that happened. We did have friends and family that would come to watch the stuff, and like my friends who wrestled, their family would watch it and stuff too. So I mean, it did happen. As for recording, I remember we had this like little like handheld, like, I guess like video camera, and it's like, I remember recording some stuff on it, but I have no idea where any of that footage is. Like, this was like, you got to keep in mind, this was when I was, I started professionally training at 13, 14. So this was when I was like probably 7, 8, 9 years old. Like, so, I mean, I have no idea where any of that footage would be, but I do remember like having some, I do have at my house, I do have some old pictures of me and my friends in front of the ring, and like us posing for the camera and stuff like that. Like, I do have some old pictures that I keep at my house, but I don't have any idea where the footage is.
One of your buddies has it. And at one point when you are, kicking ass and taking names on any of the bigs that we want to mention, it'll come back out and say, look at this. This is a documentary of CJ, right?
They're gonna be like, oh, by the way, here's this super embarrassing video of you like going through a trash can in your backyard or whatever.
Right? So your body was acclimated to taking bumps and all of this, but talk about the first day, because I love the first day when you walk into training. You know, I'm not saying you had a chip on your shoulder, but you knew stuff, and I know that you knew stuff. How did it humble you after the first day of training?
Training for me was, I specifically remember, I lost count of how many bumps they made me do, because like I did not go in there cocky. Like I knew I had enough of a common sense that my mom had raised me to go in here humble and be like, look, I'm here to learn. I'm here to get better. I am not going to go in here and act like I know stuff. Now they asked me, they said, do you have any kind of training prior to this? And I told them the truth. I said, I did some backyard stuff with my friends when I was a kid, but I'm not professionally trained. I'm here to get professional training. And they said, well, you're in the right place. We're glad that you are, because a lot of people, you know, they come in here with this stigma that, oh man, I did this in the backyard. I can do this in the ring. And I was not that guy. Good. I am not that kind of guy. Like my character of who I am as CJ is, I can come off cocky at times, but that is in regards to being a wrestler. That is not in regards to who I am as a person, because I am confident as a person, but I am not cocky. And I went in there knowing that I didn't know shit. Excuse my language.
No, that's all right. It's always explicit. It's okay.
I went in there knowing I didn't know anything, and I told them right off the bat, I said, I'm going to listen to what you tell me to do, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And they said, well, you're going to be doing some bumps. And then they put me through, I lost count of how many bumps I took that night. But I remember every time I would go down, and like probably after the first like 20, 25 bumps, I was kind of like, okay, this hurts. This really, really hurts. And I'm just like, and I just remember laying there for a second and not wanting to get up. And then I thought to myself, I said, you didn't, you know, is this how easy, are you going to give up on your dream this easy because your back hurts a little bit? Like, get up, suck it up, and deal with it. So then I get up, I go through all these bumps, and I remember the guy coming to me, and he's like, well, guess what you get to do now? And I'm like, what? He's like, now that you're all blown up and tired, now he had one of the guys who had trained, like one of the people who was training the class with us, jump in there with me and run a straight up, you know, mini match kind of thing with me, but it was a submission match. Like we were just doing, it was straight submissions and grapples. It wasn't actual moves.
Right.
And you're already tired. And he's like, so then he gets in there, and I guarantee you I probably only lasted with him for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes before he ended up putting me in something and tapping me out. And then I remember getting up the next day, the next couple of days going to school, and I just remember being so sore that I could not turn my head to the left, because it's like I couldn't turn my head too far to the left or too far to the right, because my neck was so stiff from those exercises that it was like I just literally felt like I was in like one of those full body casts. And it's like it hurt to sit down, it hurt to move, it hurt to walk. And then, like, you know, sure as crap, the following training session came up, and he was like, I walked back in, he's like, oh, so you made it back, did you? And I was like, yeah, man, I ain't giving up that easy. And he was like, well, that's good to hear, because we always push the new people as hard as we can the first day, because we want to see how much this actually means to them. So the fact that you showed up and you showed that you're not going to quit, that means that, you know, like from every training session on after that was not as bad. It wasn't as intenseful as that first day, because the first day they just put me through the ringer to try to break you, basically.
Yeah, they want to see how much you want it. Everybody wants to go to a wrestling camp one or twice, you know. It's can you take the blow up? Can you take it at all? So, yeah. What was the hardest thing for you to adapt to in training? Because, you know, the bumps, again, you're acclimated to them. Running the ropes is horrible. I always tell people this. Like, it really is not fun running ropes. But what was it, psychology for you? What was the hardest thing for you to pick up?
So the crazy thing about my training was I trained when like I said, 13, 14 years old. I'm training right before I was supposed to basically debut. I got injured and I had to stop. I had to go have surgery, and I couldn't, you know, my mom was like, I'm not letting you go back. You got hurt. And then I basically couldn't go back until I was 18. So then I ended up going back by the time that I went back to training, that facility, Power Pro, was no longer running. So I was like, well, now I got to go find a new place to run. And I kind of got like spot training here and there from different places and different people. And then, ended up debuting. I feel like that my biggest thing in wrestling I feel like psychology was always the big one for me. I feel like psychology was always the one that was like, it kicked me in the teeth, because it's like I could do the moves and I could be taught how to do the moves, because like I can learn it. And it's like, if you show me how to do a Falcon Arrow, I can get out here and do a Falcon Arrow.
Right.
Like after practicing it 3 or 4 times, I'll get the gist of it and I can do it. I can get out there, and if you want me to put on a good match, I can get out there and put on a good match. But psychology was the hardest concept for me to grasp, because it was those moments where it was like, okay, well, if your finisher is with your leg, but then they work your leg in the match, then how are you going to use your finisher? Because that's, your leg hurts now. So how are you going to kick them? And it's like, my coach now, he gets on to me a lot he tells me, he's like, look, man, quit overthinking it. Just get out there and, do what you can. You know how to wrestle, and just quit overthinking it. Get out your head. You're fine. So now that's, psychology's kind of mellowed out now with time, but I feel like a lot of that comes from reps. I feel like a lot of that comes from like just constantly getting out there wrestling better people, because to be better, you have to wrestle people better than you. So
agreed.
That's what I've been trying to do. So to answer your question on that, I got a little sidetracked, but psychology was always a big thing for me. A little bit of high flying, because I've never been a big high flyer, which is ironic because I love Jeff Hardy, but like I've never been like the guy wanting to do the shooting star press or the moonsault. I've always been the guy who I like more technical based wrestling, like catch style wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I like to base that into like fancy strike exchanges and stuff like that. But psychology, to put that together, has always been hard for me, because it's like, okay, well, I don't just need to go out here and out-chain this guy because I'm a better wrestler than him. I need to make it make sense. And that's kind of where psychology would get me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Psychology is kind of, I would think most everybody says, it's the roughest thing to catch on to the right face, the right move, the right everything. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and you just continue to learn that with reps, like you said.
Yes.
So let's talk first match. Did you debut your very first match in a battle royal, a scramble? Because normally it's multi-man, women type of matches. Do you go back and watch your first match and say, oof, what the hell was I doing? Talk about first match and your jitters and all of that.
So first match was not planned, because I had been training at this show that basically, like I told you, I was kind of bouncing around getting training from different people, and I had got to this steady place to start training, and basically my training was getting in so they didn't charge me for training, but what I had to do was, when they had a show, I had to show up, set the ring up, tear the ring down, pay my dues. That was once we got the ring set up and everything, they would let me get in there and work with people, and they would let me get in there and work on my training and my roles and everything. And that was, kind of the agreement we had. It's like, we're not going to charge you to train, but you have to set the ring up. You have to tear the ring down. I help do security. I help do the normal paying your dues stuff.
Right.
Starting out. And then all of a sudden, one day, show comes up, card subject change. That's how it always is. And apparently somebody canceled on the show and they couldn't make it. And I'm like, so the promoter was walking by while we're setting the ring up, and he's like, oh, man, such and such ain't going to make it tonight. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to find somebody and try to make some phone calls. And then so I instantly jump on my opportunity. Like, I see it. I look at him. I'm like, hey, man, if you feel like I'm ready, I'll take that spot tonight. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, man, look, I don't have to do nothing super fancy. I was like, I'll stick to what I know. I'll go out here. I'll put on a basic match. Put me in the first match. I'll do the best first match I can do. I'll promise you, I'll do the best I can. And he's like, if you feel comfortable enough, he's like, I'm gonna put you in this spot. He was like, but he said, just know that don't go out here and try to do nothing that you don't already know. Get out here and do what you know, and just basics. Do not do nothing crazy. I'm like, yes, sir. Took advantage of the opportunity. I remember they, all of this happens in a span of like a few, like an hour and a half or something. Because like dude cancels, show's going to be going on in the next like couple hours. So I'm over here like trying to like I've got my training stuff that I wear. That's what my match was in. It was like my training stuff that I have. Did not have a song. Sound guy had to pick a random song for me to come out to because I didn't have music, because I didn't know I was going to be wrestling. And I come out there and I'm at the time like 165 pounds. And I'm going against this guy that's like 260 pounds. So he's like way bigger than me.
He's a whole nother you. Yeah.
Oh, he looked like you put two of me in his, like, it was literally like two of me to equal one of him. So like, I was like sitting here scared to death in the curtain thinking I'm going to die. But then it's like, it was so weird because it's like I was so nervous and jittery. And then as soon as my whatever song they played hit, it's like my brain like reset, and it was like I became CJ Evans. It was like I just went in there, and it's like I instantly was just like, I own this. I'm going to run this. This is going to be the best thing. And I mean, I remember at the time thinking that the match was really good. I just remember thinking after the match, I was like, yeah, man, I did great. I walked in here and I showed everybody, And I mean, I got my ass beat. Like, it was not like, let's be clear. This first match, I did put up a fight, but I got stomped. It was like, it was like, I think I don't even remember how long the match was, but it was only like a 6 or 7 minute match. Like, it was a very short match. I think I hit like 3 things. Everything else was me getting hit with something and just showing that fight. Matter of fact, I remember that it was not I don't believe it was my debut match, but it was within the first like 3 or 4 shows that I did, that there was this old woman that used to come to the shows to watch them. And I remember I did not have merch or nothing because I was still green, starting out, didn't have anything. And I remember this woman coming up to me after one of the nights that I got my tail beat so bad, and she gives me $1. And she's just like, I want you to have this $1. And I'm like, okay, thank you, but why? And she's like, because you earned it. She's like, you got stomped so bad tonight. And I was like, I still got the $1. My mom's got the $1 at her house. And it's like hanging up on this little frame. And it's like, I tell people all the time, I was like, that's the first $1 I made wrestling. Like, that's my first $1. So, so first match, like I said, got stomped, go to the back. I'm thinking in my mind, heck yeah, man, I put this, like I made this guy look good. I sold like crazy for him. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I go to the back. I do what they tell you to do. Like, I go up to the most veteran wrestler on the card and I look at him like, hey man, you get a chance to watch my match? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, what'd you think? And I'm sitting here smiling like, yeah, this man's about to tell me I'm a natural. He's about to tell me look, my contract's in the mail. You know what I'm saying?
At that point, Vince is signing you tomorrow.
Yeah. That's what my brain's processing. And then he just looks at me and he was like, that match was straight dog shit. It was horrible. I can't believe it. Like, you just need to go ahead and give up. You don't need to do this. And I was just like, just remember like looking down and being like, like I thought I did so good and I did not. Like, so that happened, which, fast forward just a little bit, the same guy who told me that actually worked a show with me like 3 or 4 years later, and he worked a match with me that he actually requested. And then he come to me in the locker room and told me, he said, I want to apologize to you. And I said, for what? And he said, 3 or 4 years ago, I told you that you sucked. That match sucked and you would never be nothing. And I want you to know that you proved me wrong, that I feel like that you are a very good talent. And I'm very like astounded to see how much growth you've made. And the fact that you have, like, he's like, I wanted you to know to your face that you proved me wrong and you didn't deserve that. So I'm sorry. And I was like, hey man, I'm just thankful to be here.
Did that,
and I just remember,
not to stir the pot at all, but Did that goat you for a while to get better, to do this, to get that, to be who you are today?
When he told me that initially, at the very beginning, I remember being really upset and being like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. But then I remember that feeling didn't last very long because I took what he said and I said, well, now I'm going to prove you wrong, because I feel like that's been a big idea in my entire life, has been people telling me I can't do something and me prove it to them that I can. And I've went through a lot of haters and a lot of stuff that's happened throughout the years, just wrestling and non-wrestling related stuff. And it's like I always make it a priority to, it's like, if you tell me I can't, well, I'm going to prove you I can. So when he told me that, I sat down and I said to myself, well, now I'm going to grind twice as hard. So in reality, I'm actually very thankful that he said that, because once again, he helped push me to be who I am today. And so now I literally, like, and I mean, I don't mean to be referencing songs, but it's like
No.
I literally started from the bottom. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, so when I go from being a throw together first match, it wasn't supposed to happen, you're trash, you're never going to be anything, to now I'm main eventing shows in front of hundreds and thousands of people with a title. It's, you drove me to be this way. You pushed me. So it's like, now I prove you wrong. And I'm thankful that he told me that, because I feel like if he would have been the nice guy that come to me and said, no, man, it was okay, it could have been a little bit better, but it was okay, then I feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at now. Because I feel like I would have had a mindset of like, well, dang, I just started. I'm already doing okay. I didn't need that. I needed, it was trash, it was bad, and now look at me. You know what I mean?
I'm glad that you look at that. And I have not seen that match. I've seen other matches. And I'm glad that you look at that with that perspective, because that's what's needed. And I'll pull the curtain down for what I know. To say to somebody that's green, oh man, that was great, yeah, but you didn't really watch it, you just wanted to give them a pat on the back or something like that. So whom said that to you? Kudos to him. And I know it hurt you that night. Not to turn into a Dr. Phil show or anything, and I know it hurt you that night, but look where you are now. And that's what's needed, I think, a little bit of, real truth to everybody. Like, hey, you can give criticisms, be able to take them, and then run with it instead of just patting everybody on the back.
I actually tell people now that if you can't take criticism, then you're in the wrong business.
Oh, you should not be in wrestling at all.
There's no such thing as a perfect match. I thought there was for the first 2 or 3 years of wrestling that I've done, and I've come to realize that there is not. There is no such thing as a perfect match. There's always going to be somebody somewhere that's going to say, well, I liked it, but this could have been better. And in all reality, everything could have been better at certain points. Even now, I mean, I had a great match a couple weeks ago that I'm very happy with, and I will actually use that footage to send to promoters to try to get booked on other events. But I know, looking back, I sat down, I did it on Saturday, had a good match, went on Wednesday to training. We watched it in front of the entire class, and my trainer was like, this, and this could have been better. So then now when I go into next event, I'm going to say, well, now I need to work on this, and this.
Right.
And eventually, I'm going to lower the number of this, and this things to where it's like, it's going to be so minute that it's like, it's still going to be stuff that there will still be things that I can fix, but it's not going to be a big, like if you wrote it down pros and cons of the match, it's going to be way less cons to pros.
Right. All right. One of my favorite things to do here on the show, you've been waiting for it for long enough. Who is the show? CJ Evans. And we've heard two of the names that I have written down, and I'll send you a picture if you don't believe me, CJ. One is Jeff Hardy because of the look. This is who I think you are. Jeff Hardy, as soon as I look at you, I'm like, oh, he looks like Jeff Hardy's, son, a little brother, whatever. Your kicks, your movements, your everything is AJ Styles through and through. And then your third one, this is the one. You could be a little unhinged at times. You throw a little anger every once in a while. And that's where Jon Moxley comes in. How am I?
I can, okay, so hands down, I can definitely see Jeff Hardy. Starting out Jeff Hardy, yes, I can see it because, once again, he's who got me into wrestling. I've also had the pleasure to meet Jeff Hardy. I've also had the pleasure to do like some ring time with Jeff. So I always have a little bit of an implement to him in my moveset because it's never going to be a way of like trying to take something of his, but always pay homage to him for like, because you are what got, you were who got me into wrestling.
Right.
AJ Styles, definitely hands down. I do get that a lot. And I'm not going to lie, I do model after AJ to an extent because of him. Like the only moves that he does that I do are really the backflip Pele kick and the Ushi-Goroshi.
Yep.
Those are really the only two moves of his that I actually do on a regular basis because the Pele kick, because that was the first, when I saw him do that move, I fell in love with it.
It's one of the greatest moves in professional wrestling. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Like I'm telling you, and there's not a lot of people that do it because it's so difficult to do.
Yeah.
It took me months to learn that move, and as long as I can do it, I'm gonna keep doing it. As for the Ushi-Goroshi, I love it because it is it's got that nice Japanese style with it, but it also has that nice it's got that ooh factor, and that's what I like a lot of my moves to have. So definitely, yeah, I would agree in the regard to AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy. Jon Moxley, I can see it in regards to the grunge, like the gritty, like I'm going to come in here and stomp it out. Like I can get that from Jon Moxley. I'm just not a big deathmatch guy.
No, I didn't. No. Yeah, I didn't mean any of that. No, I meant the grunge stuff.
Oh, hands down. If you're going off with the grunge thing, then yes, Jon Moxley would definitely be somebody because I actually, you know how he does the rebound lariat?
Yeah, that's.
I used to, so I do a version of that, but I do the rebound rolling elbow.
Yep.
So like I do that same style, like, get hit, fall into the middle rope, come back, spin, big elbow. And it's like every time I do it, people are like, oh, they're like, people will come up to me like, oh, that's Jon Moxley. And I'm like, no, he does a lariat. I don't do a lot of lariats. But so, yeah, Jon Moxley, he's somebody, I was always a fan of him, probably, I think my favorite like version of him was between Shield Dean Ambrose and like AEW Jon Moxley. Like mine was like that middle ground where he came out with like the tank top and the blue jeans and like
not the gas mask one though, right?
No, not the gas mask one. Like where he come out with the he had that. I'm trying to think. He was still doing like the Dirty Deeds as his finish, right. And he was called. What was it?
Wasn't he Unhinged? That's why I used it. Wasn't he?
I think it was. I believe it was Unhinged Dean Ambrose, and that was like that style. I really like that. So the fact that you see that in me, that really makes me feel good because like I do like that style. Like when I go, I don't want to be the typical stereotypical like, ooh, I'm angry, fear me guy. I want to be the guy that's like, you beat me down. I don't care how bad you beat me down. I'm going to get back up and show you. It's like, I can do this all day kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. See, I don't do much homework anymore, CJ, because I like the stories from, the horse's mouth, as they say. So I'll watch a match or two, and I saw all of this in like 2 or 3 matches. And I'm like, okay, I have him. Not I have you pegged, but I'm like, I know exactly in my mind because my mind's warped and it was just sticking there. So yeah, so I win. You're telling me I win on this, please?
You win, absolutely.
Right,
you win.
Thank you. I like to stroke my ego.
If I had to add one person to your 3,
go ahead.
This is and when I tell you this, you're going to be like, 2000's Chris Jericho. 2000's Chris Jericho, and that's a wrap. Like that, like it's. I mean, because I'm telling you, Chris Jericho's like he's a whole vibe. I don't know what to say about him.
Yeah.
I mean, that man, there ain't nothing that man has done that hasn't popped a crowd. He can change his gimmick 1,600 times, and they're still going to cheer for him. So it's like I'm telling you, Chris Jericho was another one that I used as influence when it come to being the show, being larger than life as that character, because I remember him doing the Chris Jericho's highlight reel. And that was the beginning founding blocks of CJ Evans.
Nice. So. All right, let's take a little break from wrestling for a little bit and talk about some of your nerd stuff that you like to do when you were not doing anything in professional wrestling. And I know that's hard to believe that professional wrestlers do this. You're taking a complete break for a day or two. What do you like getting into? Are you a video game guy or a music guy, or do you like to read books, or are you going to blow my mind? Like, what do you do on a complete day off?
So I'm definitely like, I do a lot of gaming when it's like my downtime. And like you said, I don't have a lot of downtime, but I definitely like getting into the wrestling world, and you meet a lot of people, and a lot of my friends that are my best friends now in my life, they're my best friends, are also wrestlers. And a lot of them like the game because wrestlers are pretty much, if you like, we're very similar. A lot of wrestlers are very alike. We like a lot of the same things. We like, superheroes. We like, movies. We like video games. So I do like to play video games with my buddies. I wouldn't say that I overdo it because, like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time, but I do enjoy playing video games. Music is a big part of my life too. I played music before I started being like in between when I got hurt to when I came back. I learned to play guitar, and I did a lot of like music songwriting, played in like a band and stuff. So I do like to play music, and so that, music is definitely a big pastime of mine. And as for, I would say that's probably the main two. I mean, I also love movies because I'm a big movie guy. Like I watch a little bit of TV shows, but I'm more of a movie person. So I definitely, those are my probably three things that I do. If I'm not in the gym and training or wrestling, then I'm probably going to be watching a movie, playing a video game, or doing some music stuff.
What's your
Because I mean,
go-to
that's
movie?
my any kind of superhero movie.
Okay, that's what I
I
thought.
love superhero movies, man. Any superhero movie I love. I also like to watch. I love comedies, but specifically like I like stuff like American Pie, or like I like a lot of
Oh,
Adam Sandler movies.
the stupid
Um,
stuff. And I mean stupid in a
yes,
good way. Yeah. Now
yes,
we're talking. Yeah.
and then if I'm gonna watch something like horror, then it needs to be like, in my opinion, a lot of horror movies nowadays aren't actually scary. They just have really good graphics.
Mhm.
So like, to me, I'm more of like a Jason guy. I've always been like a slasher flick fan. Like I
The
love
old school
Halloween,
stuff.
Friday. Yeah. I love Friday the 13th. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. And the reason I say superhero movies, and honestly, I'm going to be honest about it. I don't mind watching Disney movies. I like Disney movies too. Certain ones. I won't watch all of them, but there are some I like. And the reason being, I tell people this, they laugh at me. They say, well, why do you do that? And I'm like, because, man, if you want to know how to be a good wrestler, be a superhero. If you want to know how to be a good heel, be a villain. If you want to know, if like, you can study a superhero movie and be like, learn the style of how to be a wrestler, because all the elements are there. All the steps of a match are in a movie. And it's like, same thing with Disney movies. It's like, if you really want to be a good, like wrestling, like if you want to be a good wrestler and you watch a Disney movie, it's like, look at the plot of all Disney movies. Like, prime example, like Mulan.
Yep.
She had a purpose.
Is that your favorite
She
one,
was
by the way?
that's one of them. I love Mulan. I love Moana,
Ah,
and
yes. That's what
and
I was
my
hoping you would say. Moana's my
yeah,
favorite one.
yeah.
So,
Moana's a great one because I love a lot of mythology stuff. So that just kind of, played into that a little bit. So yeah, definitely. If movie wise, it's superheroes or a comedy. If it's a horror, then it's going to be like slasher flicks. Those are my three go tos.
we just learned a lot about you right now, but here's even more, because now we get to get into the random questions before we get back into wrestling. So,
Okay.
all right, here's a question from a past guest.
Hello, this is the Queen of Chaos, Erin Eris. And my question for you today is, if you could be any professional wrestler in history for one match, who would it be and which match would it be and why?
I feel like there's so many good choices because like there's so many legendary moments.
Right?
I feel like I've always been. I'm not like an old school guy. Like, I do study some old school stuff because I'm not dissing old school wrestling. It's definitely, it has its place. And I do study old school for a lot of story when I need story stuff to watch to get better. I feel like for me, who I would like actually want to be, if I could be involved in and see how it played out, one of the stories would have to be when The Rock and Stone Cold was in the feud. I would definitely want to be Stone Cold during that and see like it evolved from the beginning to the end of the feud. Because I feel like that they had one of the biggest feuds in WWE history. Like I feel like that anybody that knows wrestling knows that feud.
Right.
Anybody that don't know wrestling still know who Stone Cold and The Rock are. So I feel like for me it would definitely be me. Like I would want to be Stone Cold, and I would want to be Stone Cold, and I would probably say like any of their WrestleMania championship matches, because like it's hard to pick one of those because like each one had its own like thing.
Yeah, its own
And
story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like each one. It's like it was never the same match. That's what made it stand out. It's like them two people could get in the ring, they could fight 4 times and have 4 different matches, and I respect that so much because it's so hard to wrestle the same guy multiple times and not have the same match.
I like that. I like that. Because I try to answer these questions too with you guys on air when I replay them. I want to be Ricky Steamboat in the Macho Man match at WrestleMania 3 to see how that would all. That's one of my favorite matches out there. So I would like to take over Steamboat and take on Savage and see where that would pan out. Essentially, we'll see. All right, the randomizer's not good deal, by the way, for questions because they're random. There's no anything that I can even pull together. So let's start with these. If you could undo one moment in your life, what would it be?
In my life or in wrestling?
In both, whatever you want to answer this way.
In wrestling, I said earlier, like, I wouldn't change anything in regards to, who I am. And like, I definitely wouldn't change the building blocks that made me be who I am. There was a time in my 6 years that, COVID hit all of us and it messed up a lot of stuff. And during that time, I took a break from wrestling because the only shows that I was running at the time weren't running because of COVID, and we couldn't do big gatherings of so many people. So the show basically the brand didn't like shut down, but we shut down temporarily because they couldn't run. And I took a break from wrestling at that time. I feel like if I could go back and change something, I would. I wish that I would have found like somewhere that I could have still been like steadily doing something, whether it be training, shows, or something during that time, because I feel like if I would have done that, I would have got out of the state quicker. I would have got, because like I'm coming up on, I just had my 6 years and I haven't started getting out of state bookings until this past year.
Right.
I really think in a way that's a good thing because you have that experience to go. But at the same time, that's a hindrance because everybody knows when you're a wrestler, you're on a clock, and I don't want to be late. So my biggest thing is if I had to change something, I would probably change that. I wish that I wouldn't have took because I took like a year and a half off. Like it was like between a year and a half, and I was still training during this time off and on when we could because of COVID. But I really wish that that could have changed and I could have had somewhere steady going, getting stuff done. That way I feel like I missed a lot of, like, I had to play a lot of catch up. Once COVID kind of settled down, I had to do a lot of catch up and get to where I am now. So that's what I would have changed. Hands down.
Training's great, don't get me wrong, but it's not the same as the experience and the shows and the this, the that. That's where it all comes, right?
Yeah. So the best way I can explain it is that training is where I go because I tell everybody there's a difference between being in shape and being in ring shape. Mm-hmm. Like if I've got a lot of friends that are in shape and they go to the gym and they work out religiously, but they couldn't get in a wrestling ring with me because they know how to work out, but they couldn't get in there in a match with me and wrestle 10 minutes. And not be basically dead.
Right.
Because And because people don't understand that, like, in-ring cardio is a whole different breed of like just going out and running. Like in-ring cardio, like there's so many things factoring in at the same time that you're thinking, because we're not just athletes, we're also entertainers. And we're trying to implement moments with the crowd along with putting off these good matches with these cool moves and spots. And I feel like people get lost in the sauce of, okay, let's go out here and do all these cool moves, but none of them mean anything. And I tell people all the time, for me, like, I'm worried about making moments, making memories. Like, I want people, I don't care, like, if I'm the mid card, I don't care if I'm the first match, if I'm the main event, if I got a belt, if I don't got a belt. I want to be the guy you talk about on the ride home.
Yep.
And a couple of days later, I want to be the guy that gets brought up and said, man, we need to go back to that wrestling show because you remember that CJ Evans guy? I want to see what he does tonight. Like, that's what I care about. So the moves are cool. That's what we go to training to learn, is the moves. You want to learn to be a better wrestler. You want to learn how to cut better promos. You want to learn how to get better in-ring shape. But shows, events, that's where you learn how to be an entertainer.
Yep.
I feel like training teaches you how to be a wrestler, but events teach you how to be an entertainer. That's how I would word it.
I completely agree. All right, next one. What will people look back at us in 50 years and be shocked and appalled about that's happening right now?
50 years from now,
I'll be 97, just so you know, still running a podcast. I'm kidding.
Absolutely, hands down. And I'll tell you what, in 50 years we'll do a reunion segment.
Oh, you're coming back on before 50 years. You're coming.
Okay. I was gonna say we'll do like a little reunion thing. You'd be like, okay, so this many years ago, this is where you was. Now where are you at? What are you doing? What's up? What's the update?
Yeah.
So I feel like in 50 years from now, I'm hoping that we have I feel like what everybody's gonna be talking about is probably the way that the economy's been since COVID. Like, because I feel like COVID hit so hard, and it just caused such a big thing to everybody that even now that we're, it's settling down a little bit, I feel like it's still affecting people. Yeah. And I feel like it's still a big factor in people's lives. And I feel like the reason I say that is because I don't think anybody knew that the world could just shut down like that. Like, the world just shut down for extended periods of time. And I feel like that nobody saw that coming. Nobody knew that could happen. So it's like in 50 years from now, I feel like people are still going to be like, man, I hope something like that doesn't happen again. Because if COVID could do that, well, what if somebody shut down the entire grid of the internet? Like, what if somebody shut down the entire grid of the internet and it's like, now we have no technology? Right. Like, imagine how the world would be at that point. So I feel like that's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. Later on down the road, people are going to talk about that.
Yeah, look, when you don't have cell service for like 5-10 minutes, people are losing their mind. So imagine if it's an extended period of time.
But it's crazy because it's like if you would have looked back like 20-something years ago, back before cell phones were as big as they are now, people used to go leave their house all the time and not have a phone.
Right.
So it's like they only had a house phone because, growing up, like, we had a house phone. My mom didn't have a cell phone until she had to start traveling for work. And it's like she only got it then because of traveling for work. But back when she was like just going back and forth to work every day like a normal, she didn't have a cell phone. Like, she left in the morning, you didn't talk to her till she got home. So like,
and life moved on. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like nowadays you think to yourself, you go through a dead zone for 2 minutes. You're like, man, why I'm paying all this money for this bill and I ain't got no service right now. Like, it's insane to think about it when you think how much the world has changed in a matter of 20 years.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. All right. Last random question, but this one could hit, and I really like it. When you think about success, who comes to mind and why?
If I had to pick like a wrestler wise, I would probably say somebody like The Rock, because The Rock didn't just go to WWE to wrestle. Like, he went to WWE and he changed his entire life, because I remember watching a documentary on him and he was talking about that back when he was a kid, that his family was so broke that he used to go to this convenience store.
and he would steal candy bars from that convenience store because he was hungry and didn't have food to buy them. But then now, with him making as much money as he does now, he literally goes back. He went back and he went to that same convenience store that he stole from when he was a kid, and he bought every candy bar in the store and then gave it to the community, like gave kids and stuff candy bars. And to me, that would be like the definition of success. You didn't go the route that some people go, like they're down and out, they're having a bad time. They go off, they start breaking the law. Next thing you know, they have a criminal record. They're going in and out of jail their whole life on drugs or something. But he took a negative thing, did just like I did, had a negative thing, turned it into a positive and grinded and pushed himself to the point now where not only is he known as a top wrestler, a top WWE legend, he is known as an icon in the world of media. That he went from wrestling all the way to being an actor, and he is, everybody knows who The Rock is, whether they watch wrestling or not.
Yep.
To me, that's success.
Agreed, 100%. I saw the same documentary, by the way. So, yes.
Oh, okay. Nice.
All right. Back to wrestling. And this is the toughest one that I ask, but it's kind of one of my favorites. What needs to change in professional wrestling? Because there's stigma still around professional wrestling of this, that, or the other. But if you could wave a magic wand, what would you get rid of in professional wrestling?
Hands down, if I had to change something in professional wrestling, it would be the politics.
Yeah.
It would be the brother system, because the brother system is only good in very small circumstances. Like, to me, the brother system's like, hey man, I work for this promotion. I've got a friend that wants to come work on that promotion with me. Then I'll go to the promoter, say, hey man, this is a good brother of mine. I think you should bring him on and give him a shot. That's a good example of the brother system. Like, hey, try him out, see what you think. If he works for you, keep him. If he don't, he didn't. But I was a good brother to get him a booking to help him out. But then a bad example of that now is I go in here and I politic to the promoter and say, look, man, I feel like we need to put me and this guy together, and it needs to work to this championship, and then I'm going to hold it for this long. And, just giving all these like bullcrap answers out of their butt to try to they're trying to give all these bullcrap reasons of why they should do this and why they should do that, why they should be the top guy, why they should be on all the posters. And I can't stand that stuff. Don't go in here and tell somebody why you should be, show them why they should. And the politics, that annoys me more than anything, because there's too many people coming in here, stepping into a ring, thinking that they are the top thing on the indie scene. And they think that they're entitled. They think they deserve something because they're the promoter's cousin, or they're the booker's brother, or whatever the reason is. But realistically, they're not the level that they think they are, but they get those opportunities because of who they know.
Yep.
And I have no issue, like I stated earlier, if you know somebody and they're your friend and you're trying to help them out with a booking or something like that, absolutely. I have no issue with that. But I just don't feel like that somebody should hold a championship just because they're a top, they shouldn't hold a championship just because their brother is, or their best friend is the booker, or because their uncle is the promoter. And it's like, that's not, to me, it's like, it would be a mixture between that, because that's one thing. The second thing, and Cece also touched on this, because, me and her, like you had her on, I watched the podcast I listened to the podcast with her, and the amount of untrained people is crazy. Like, and when I say untrained, I mean, like, I'm not talking about like somebody that just went to training 2 or 3 times and now they're debuting. I'm talking about like how many people realistically in today's indie scene go to training every week. How many people actually get in the ring and learn their craft and put time and effort and money into it,
right,
to be better? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all putting our bodies on the line. We're getting in here and, we're putting our bodies on the line. And every time we get in that ring, we run a risk of not walking out of it. So to me, it's like, I feel like that if I get in here and I bust my tail to be in training every week, to make sure I don't kill you when I drop you on a body slam,
right,
then I would really appreciate the same respect back. and you actually know how to pick me up and put me down. Because, I mean, granted, everything in wrestling is going to hurt, but I would at least like to I'd rather be sore the next day than not be able to walk the next day.
Yeah, then be broken. Literally broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be the two for me, would be those.
To jump back on your first one, I completely, wholeheartedly agree with both of them, but Ricky Morton was sitting in my head when you were talking about the brother thing. You know, it's cool to bring a friend over and say, hey, promoter X, try this guy out, see what you think tonight, if you want to or like to. But then he doesn't get a title right off the bat because of, you know, put asses in seats first. Get over first. Make sure the crowd likes you first. Do all of that stuff. Like, that's exactly what Ricky Morton says, and you know who he is. So if you don't do that at a show, and you don't do anything with promoting, you don't do anything with marketing, you don't do anything da-da-da-da-da, why should you be holding a title just because you're family or a best friend?
I'm going to tell you something that my coach told me that stuck to me. Probably one of the biggest phrases that he told me that stuck to me longer than anything else he said is he looked at me in the face and he told me, why would you drive an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to a show to wrestle for 10 minutes, but you won't drive an hour and a half to training for 2 or 3 hours to make your craft better?
Yep.
And so in regards to like that, I feel like that's a big mentality as well, because like I said, politics has its place where it's a good thing. It can be a good thing. Like I would put my name on, there's people I train with right now that I would put my name on to go to a show and say, look, man, bring them on. If they don't work out, you blame me because I trust in them. But at the same time, I would never go to a promoter and say, hey, let me do this with this person because this will be the best thing for your company. Like, no, it's not. They know what's good for their company.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's your job to show them that you were what's good for it. If you're doing what you're supposed to and you're putting in the hard work and effort and dedication, they will see it. And when they see it, that's when you start getting championship matches. That's when you start holding titles. That's when you start getting put in these main event style places with these big names. It shouldn't be because, like I said, oh, well, my brother-in-law is the promoter. Like, no, it should be the guy who's out here flyering 3 days a week, bringing in 15, 20 people to your show that's making you money. That's who gets these opportunities, because those are the people who care and want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's talk about, as we mentioned a while ago, you're the second member of Infamous making the show. We've had CC. We now had CJ. Jack, we're going to have to work on a little bit. He might be the guy that I have to go knocking on his front door to get him on, but we'll get there.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
Absolutely.
Talk about Infamous, what it means to you, your perspective about how you guys are going to take over.
So the best way, bullet points about Infamous is it started out, me and Jack originally met because we were booked on the same show to work each other one night. I met him, thought he was a cool dude. We put on a good match. We had chemistry instantly in the ring. And every time we've ever had to work, we've always had chemistry together. So it's like whether we were tagging or apart from each other, we always have good chemistry because, we're good like that. Me and Jack, we became pretty good friends, like right off the bat, just talking. And we talked about our views of wrestling and kind of where we want to be and what we want to do. And we had very similar mindsets. So we always hit it off right off the bat. Cece's my cousin, and she trains at the same wrestling academy that I train at, which is 2-6 Wrestling Academy in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And me and her train together, and Jack trains there as well. But basically what happened that made Infamous was that, so she's my cousin. I always try to look out for her and Jack started dating. But I wasn't upset about it because I know that Jack is a good guy. And that, I was like, well, if you're going to be with somebody, I'd rather you be with somebody worth, like not some random dude that's a scumbag. I'd rather you be with somebody that's like actually,
right.
I'd rather you be with somebody like a good guy that I know. So it's like, So Jack and her started dating, and then we were, we trained together. We bounce ideas off each other. We travel the road together some. And one day a promoter hit me up, and he was at he saw me at another show, and he was like, "Hey man, how would you feel about tag teaming with Jack?" And I said, "Well, I would love to tag with Jack because we have chemistry every time we work each other. I'd love to tag with him. I mean, sure."
And he's not
And
a
he was like,
scumbag.
He's cool. He's a cool dude. So I'm like, "Hey man," he tells me, he says, "Well, I'll tell you what, I want to bring y'all on, but I want your cousin involved." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want her involved in?" He's like, "I want y'all to tag, but I want her to be y'all's manager. And that's going to be what brings y'all together, is because you're her cousin. She dates him, so therefore it pulls y'all together by default." Because at the time, he was a heel, I was a face, and she was just kind of popping in and out randomly. But then with this situation, he ended up turning me heel to join with Jack. So then me and Jack started teaming together. She comes in as our manager. She's helping us in matches. And we end up, on that promotion going all the way to winning the tag team titles. And we held them for like 6 or 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
So like from us starting out tagging, within a matter of a few months, we had already we already had started tagging. Next thing I know, we're getting a title shot. Next thing I know, we're winning a title. And I'm like, it's like I said, it just was like being in the perfect place at the perfect time, because Jack is his own entity in the ring. And me and him, the best way I can say that we are is we have like a Motor City Machine Gun style.
Yes, you do.
But we're very entertaining with what we do. We make everything we do matter. Now, Jack's got a little bit more experience than I do, because he's been in the business, I want to say, around 8 years. So he's a little bit more experienced than me. But me and him are the first two to get in training together and bounce ideas off each other and come and say, "Hey, man, like, I respect Jack to a very high standard." So I'll go to him and say, "Hey, man, I'm trying to do this move. What's your opinion on this?" And he'll look at me straight in the face and tell me, like, "I don't really think that's a good move for you," or, "Oh, yeah, that's a great move. You should learn it." And he'd help me work on it. Vice versa goes the same for him. I help him work on stuff. But the biggest thing about us tagging, and the reason why, storytelling, the way we're going to take over the indie scene is going to be because we have the full package in a matter of 3 people in one vehicle. I mean, I want you to think about this for business purposes. There's not that many female wrestlers on the independent scene, and there's even less of them that can hold their own weight. Cece's a good competitor, and she's a good worker, not to mention she's dependable, not to mention she can, she holds her weight in there, not just with other women, but with men. She can go just as hard in a match with a man as she can with a woman. And Jack is his own entity. He stands out at every show he goes to, every person he works in front of. I mean, Steve Corino looked at Jack to his face and told him that he liked Jack for how he was in the ring. He liked Jack. So that means that Jack's already got it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then you sprinkle on the fact that you've got me being as charismatic as I am, and the fact that you put all 3 of us in a car together and you say, "Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. You can have me and Jack tag, have CC as a manager. Or you can have me and Jack tag and have CC wrestle on the card. Or you can have me and CC mix tag against somebody. Or you can have Jack and CC mix tag against somebody and then put me or Jack in a singles match. Or you can put us on 3-on-3 and do a 6-man tag and put all 3 of us against all 3 of them." Like, there's so many trade-ins and outs that you have the full package in your car that you can say, "Okay, look, we're going to come in for this price, and you have all 3 of us that you can do whatever you want to with us. We can tag, even if you don't have a spot, and you say, 'Well, man, I'm full up on tag matches tonight. Can you work each other?' Me and Jack can do that. Cool. CC goes stand in Jack's corner. You're his manager. Me and Jack will work each other. It don't matter. We got the full. We're not just a good tag team. We're not just a good faction. We're a good business decision. Like, you got everything you need on your show in one car. So that's why I think that Infamous, we're just now starting out, branching out, going to some other promotions. And I feel like once we hit the ground running, we're going to take all that head of steam and we're going to be going everywhere. Like Infamous is going to be you're either going to see the name C.J. Evans, Jack Tatum, or C.C. Young on posters all over, up and down the East Coast, in the middle, on the West, wherever you go, you're going to see it.
Ready for the heel heat? You ready for the heel heat?
All
That
that.
you're gonna hate me. What you just said and all of that. I'm gonna give you a synopsis. CC's the main part of Infamous. I know you're gonna hate me.
She is a key factor because
She's the main
the
part.
thing-
She's the
like-
main.
like-
CC, shout out to you, by the way.
Well, see, Lord have mercy. My thing is, see, like, I don't like to pick people and say,
No,
like, oh,
no,
you're the main guy.
it's
I
all
like to
three
say,
of
like,
you.
we're all,
I'm being
we
an
all do
asshole.
our own
It's all
thing.
three of you. It's all three of you. I just wanted to.
Okay,
Give
but at the
CC
end of the day, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like also you also got to factor in the concept. It's like I know how it is for her because like she gets bookings, like she's helped get me bookings, she's helped get Jack bookings. So it's like you're not wrong. She's definitely like a key factor because it's like she's got me bookings on shows that I wasn't even with Jack on. Like Jack wasn't even there, but she got me booked somewhere just because she was like, they asked her like, hey, do you got anybody that, you know, you might want to recommend? And she'd be like, oh, my cousin CJ, you should bring him on. So it's like, you're definitely not wrong in that department.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go down this path. I was just joking.
You're good, man. But at the same time, I will say that like I try my best to always. I mean, because realistically, she's the reason why I'm on your podcast right now. I
Right.
can't even deny that because I mean, she referred me and she was like, "Hey, you should totally hit this guy up. He did a podcast with me. I'm sure he'll do one with you."
And I reached
So
out to CC
realistically-
first. So.
Exactly. I mean, she's got that. She's very approachable. You know what I'm saying? Like she's very down to earth. She's easy to talk to. That's one of the reasons why I respect her as much as I do. At the same time, I will say that we all as a group try to give that back to each other. Like, you know, if I get a message from a promoter saying he needs somebody, Jack is in my top list of people that I will recommend. And see, it's like if they say I need a female, then CC's one of the first people that I'm shooting a text to, saying, hey, like, would you be interested in going to this promotion? This promoter hit me up. I'd be more than happy to help out if I can. And that's one reason why we have such a mutual respect for each other, because we're not just, that's the best thing about us as a faction. We're not just put together because of a promoter. We were already best friends before.
And family, yeah.
Yeah, like we were already friends and hung out and stuff before this happened. So when that promoter come up and he's like, well, I got an idea for you, we were instantly like, I mean, we got another company that just talked to me this week. He told me, he said, starting at the beginning of next year, I'm going to bring you and Jack in. And y'all, he's like, I'm gonna start having y'all tag on my company. So it's like it's already starting. It's just getting the ball rolling that we got to work on.
Right. And I'm just kidding. You know that. I love all three.
Oh
of
yeah,
you.
yeah,
I do.
absolutely. And I'm gonna, as soon as I talk to Jack, I'll be seeing him tomorrow. I'm gonna put a bug in his ear about your podcast and recommend him to come on because I would like to say that all three of us were featured on your podcast, so that way
I would too.
You know, it spreads the word. You know what I'm saying? I would love to put a bug in his ear and tell him, say, look, man, you know, like he's already done CC and me, so it's like you're kind of, you know, you're being left out here.
Yeah, you're the tail end. You're not Infamous right now. You're just Jack. You're just there. I'm kidding.
Yep. Yes, sir. You're just Jack.
We talked.
You literally don't know Jack.
Yeah, you don't know Jack. We don't know Jack yet. We talked about a lot of great things in your career. Give me one of your most embarrassing moments thus far. You got them. These are great stories, by the way. So don't give me a crap PC answer. Give me something good.
I feel like
it's coming.
Super embarrassing. So super embarrassing. Like one of the moments that stand out for me, and I'm not going to say the actual full thing. I'm just going to say like kind of like a PG rated version of it. But so the first championship that I ever won, I did not know that I was going to win. Nobody told me. So I'm in a triple threat match and I'm fighting. I hit this guy with this move. It was my finisher at the time. It was the Future Shock DDT. I was doing it as my finish, you know, and this was my first title. I'm in this triple threat. To my understanding, I'm going to go to pin this guy. Some dude's going to grab me off of him and then steal the win from me. You know, I'm thinking, okay. So I go and I hit the dude with the DDT and I go to pin him. And like the other guy's not getting up to like pull me off. and the guy's not kicking out, and the ref hits 3. And in that moment, I'm in my mind like I have messed up so bad. Like I like this dude is hurt or the other guy's hurt, and I'm going to get blamed for it because I'm going to be the one walking out with the strap. And I'm like, I'm sitting here like this promoter's not going to book me no more. I'm going to, I'm so embarrassed. But at the same time, I'm getting hit with all these emotions because this was my first championship. So it's like, this is what I dreamed about since I was a kid, oh, I'm going to hold a belt. I'm going to win a belt one day. And then so I instantly, my brain's trying to process everything. And then I'm just like, well, it finally comes to the conclusion, I'm like, okay, the ref's checking on the wrestlers. So I got to portray you can't just break every bit of believability and be like, hey man, are you good? Because the bell's done rung, my music's playing. So I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to wing it. I'll talk to him when we get in the back. That's what my brain decides on. So then I just start celebrating and, I just get caught up in my celebration. I'm jumping around and I'm all happy. And I just yell out F yeah, just to the top of my lungs.
Nice.
And I am the biggest at the time. I am the top face on the company. So I was the top face in this match fighting 2 other heels. And I just overcame the odds and just had this big moment. But the top face on the company just goes, he's like, F yeah, just running around the ring. And then the crowd, it was, and then after I get to the back, I'm like, oh, damn it, I am so messed up. Why did I say that? And then when I go through the curtain, everybody in the locker room's lined up. And they just start hugging me and clapping hands. And they're like, oh, man, congratulations. And the promoter looks at me and he just says, well, I'm going to let it slide because I know that you didn't know you was going to win that. So he's like, don't worry about the F-bomb you dropped. He's like, but congratulations, kid, you earned it. So that was, super embarrassing, but at the same time, super funny because I look back on it now and I'm like, bro, I thought I was going to get, I thought I was going to oh yeah, you just won this belt. Well, guess what? You're losing it next show. You said the F word on a show. I was so hyped up and then, emotions was running wild. So that was definitely on the top list of embarrassing things that happened to me in a match. And then the other one was another super embarrassing moment was I got busted open and I went to go do a suicide dive out of the ring. And brother went to go give me an uppercut to cut me off. He popped me in the nose.
Oh, no.
And it just bust my nose. It wasn't broke, but it was busted. At the time, I didn't know if it was broke or not, but I just know my nose started gushing blood. It's just, just pouring blood. And I go to start getting in the ring, and the ref's like, hey, are you good? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm sitting here constantly wiping my nose trying to get it to stop. And he's like, all right, well, don't get blood on the canvas. And I'm just like, dude.
How am I not going to?
I'm like, okay. I'm just looking at him okay, I'll try my best. I have this thing's literally going off like a water sprinkler. And you're just expecting me to just turn the valve and it stopped. But okay. So that was definitely my two of my super embarrassing moments that I was just it happened and in the moment you're just really?
Yeah.
So that's my things, yeah.
That's got to be the greatest rib of winning a title when you don't know. That's
absolutely.
That's cool. That's a moment it's got to live forever. All right, it's July. It's damn near August. What's the goals for the rest of the year for you? And essentially for Infamous in your mind as well.
So goals for me are to continue to grind, go to other promotions, basically show up and just, get out, branch out, get to more states. I'd really like to get out of state more. It's nothing against North Carolina, but I just want to wrestle other places because when you're in one area, you just start wrestling the same people so much. And I really want to branch out and start wrestling other companies that I haven't wrestled for before. So that's on the agenda for me. The other thing for Infamous is to solidify us more as a team. I really want to branch out with us as well and start getting booked more as a group because I like doing single stuff. Because I feel like that the best way I can explain it, that you never stop learning in wrestling.
Right.
and I don't want to get complacent. I don't want to get stagnant. So like I might go one weekend and be in a tag match, and now I'm getting tag experience. But then I'm going here and I'm wrestling a singles match, and now I'm getting singles experience. So like I want to do everything to grow as much as possible. So I want me to succeed and grow in other companies and get booked at other places. I mean, I'd love to go to somewhere like AML, PWF.
Yep.
I've got to do a little stuff with PWF here and there. But I mean, I'd love to get to like AML and do some stuff with them. I'd love to get to Firestar and do some stuff with them. Like places like that, I would like to go. And then obviously, you know, with the tag, I mean, I just want to go out to other companies, establish us more as a tag team. So when somebody says like, oh, wow, you know, like we love Jack, we love CJ, getting to see them together, that's like the best thing ever, you know, like, so, and then obviously, you know, the main goal is to get a contract with a major company, but that's not, I mean, that's all about being in the right place at the right time. So I would say that would be the goals for me and them currently. That, and also just growing as a whole. Like I want us to grow together as a group. I love the camaraderie of wrestling. That's my favorite part. So that would be the other thing too, just to have a lot more funny stories like I just told you now. I'd like to have a lot more of those to tell later on when I'm, you know, when it comes to that point where it's time to hang them up.
When you come back on to tell another story.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, favorite question for real this time. I want your dream match, but I put the caveat on it. I want to know the who, I want to know the where, and I want to know the stipulation. And it could be anybody that's ever wrestled, essentially.
I mean, obviously, for me personally, I mean, if I was going to pick, if it was going to be my dream match, it would definitely have to be, I would say, probably me at WrestleMania. And it would have to be, honestly, I don't even care if it's for a title. Like, I really don't. I just would love to have a one-on-one match with AJ Styles, because I would love to get in that match and then, like, us go back and forth on some of the similar things. Like, I would love to see, like, how he puts a match together compared to how I put a match together. So I would love to get in there and do like me versus him at WrestleMania. For a title would be great, but it doesn't have to be for a title because I feel like that would be a show-stealing match. I feel like that we could walk out of WrestleMania and still say that was a main event quality match, whether the title was on the line or not.
Not every dream match has to have a title involved. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah. So.
And honestly, I say WrestleMania because in my mind that's the biggest stage of them all. But realistically, I don't care which venue it would be at. It could be at any TNA pay-per-view. It could be at any WWE pay-per-view. It could be at an AEW pay-per-view. I don't care. I just want that match. I would love to have that opportunity before he retires to be able to wrestle him at some point. It would be, no pun intended, it would be a phenomenal match.
How about CJ Evans against AJ Styles at WrestleCade? How about that?
I would definitely jump on that in a heartbeat because going to WrestleCade and seeing how big the crowd is there.
It's unbelievable. I make the trek every year for the last 5 years.
I'm telling you, man, the energy, because I was there, like, so you've been going every year. So that means that were you there a couple years ago when Matt Hardy and Jeff Jarrett were fighting?
Yes.
And Champagne slid in the ring, got hit in the head with a guitar?
Yep.
Okay, so Champagne's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
So like me and him have wrestled a few times on the indie scene and had some good matches with him. I got a lot of respect for Champagne. So if he hears this, shout out to you. Really appreciate everything you've done to help me grow in the business and the shout outs that he's gave me as well. So definitely a fun little fact on that as well.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Listen, this is supposed to be about CJ, but if you guys have never experienced WrestleCade, it's right in CJ's backyard, and I make the 12-hour trip down over Thanksgiving weekend. Make sure you search up WrestleCade because it's unbelievable. It's the amount of stars, the matches, and everything. Go to it. Go to it. You will not be disappointed. But all right. CJ, this is your time. Give us some of your socials. If you have merch, can we buy it from your socials? Do you have a pro wrestling tees? And where are you going to be in the next couple weeks?
So, as for my socials, you can find everything social wise of me on CJ Evans Pro. That's CJEVANS PRO. You can look me up I'm literally on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. You can find me on all those social media platforms. And like I said, CJ Evans Pro. Uh, Anytime I encourage people to do this. And I know you say plug your socials, but I got to throw this in there as like a little extra. I love to see when people go to the shows and they take pictures with me and they go on Facebook and they tag my CJ page in it, because I meet so many people wrestling that when I get to go on Facebook and I see like, oh, this fan tagged me in a post, or this fan took a picture of me and tags me in it. So it really means a lot to me. So I definitely want to encourage people to do that. I do have merch for sale. I've got trading cards. I've got bracelets, decals, pictures, T-shirts. I've got like a little bit of everything in regards to that. Different designs coming out. I actually am in the process of getting a new design for a T-shirt out right now, because I've got 2 different designs, but I'm in the process of getting another one. Any merch that you see that you want, you're more than welcome to hit me up on social media. Just shoot me a DM and I can, get it to you. I'll ship it out. Or if you come to a show, I have merch at every one of my shows. So you can come over to my merch table and, by all means say, hey, as for where am I going to be the next couple weeks? So this coming up weekend, I've actually got a really busy weekend, because I'm doing a Mike Quackenbush seminar on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's over the course of 3 days. He's doing 7 classes. I'm going to be attending all of those. And then Saturday night, I will be in Southern Pines, North Carolina for Alternative Combat Wrestling. I'm going to be wrestling there that night. So definitely, if you're in the area and you want to come out and see some good wrestling with some good people, I definitely encourage people to come out to that.
Mike Quackenbush, unbelievable. Good for you. I just soak it all in, by the way. Soak it all in. Good.
I saw one of the classes that he's doing is chain wrestling from around the world. So, of course, I instantly was like, I have to go to this, because I love chain wrestling. So it's like, to me, that's going to be like a super informative, really good seminar. It's like it was meant for me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I'm super excited to meet him and just kind of pick his brain on, because, he's trained so many big talent. It's like, the amount of knowledge that man has, he's a plethora. So it's like, I want to pick his brain and see, what do I need to do to go to the next level?
Yeah. CJ, did I forget anything? Is there something you want to announce? Anything that I don't know about? Were we good?
I don't think you forgot anything. I will say that one big show that I will be having, I don't know exactly how much attendance from the public will be allowed, but I am going to say it because it's a big deal. So August 17th is a very big show, probably going to be one of the biggest shows that I've ever got to wrestle, because for Next Level Pro Wrestling, I'm currently the social media champion for them. And August 17th, we are going to be wrestling in Fort Liberty, North Carolina. It was formerly known as Fort Bragg, but now it's Fort Liberty. We're going to be wrestling on base, doing a big show for all the troops over there. And I'm just basically putting that announcement out so that way if anybody sees any kind of footage or something circulate later, then they know about it. I've heard that it's going to be a huge turnout, probably going to be the most amount of people I've ever wrestled in front of. So definitely something to keep an eye on. My biggest thing with me is I just want to encourage people, follow me on social media, see what I'm about. I promise you ain't going to be disappointed, because I'm coming up really close to getting, a high number of followers. I'm up like right at 1,000 now. And so I'll be passing that here soon, but I want to like triple that, quadruple that as many times as possible. I want to have as many followers and as many fans from as many places all around the world. And I really appreciate all the support that everybody gives.
Yeah, guys, make sure you head over to YouTube, watch some of his matches, watch some of the clips on Instagram and everything. CJ, you are the show. You're amazing. Thank you for spending so much time. I know I kept you long, but we just couldn't stop. There's so much to know, and we didn't know everything about you. So you're definitely going to be on the docket again. Thanks for spending some time with us today.
I really appreciate you having me, and I look forward to doing it again in the future.
Hey, it's Leah Sparks, and keep listening to Can Crushers because they are awesome and they have even more sparkle than I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the show. C.J. Evans. What an amazing story. I love it because I can see him sitting there with his mom and his granny and them all fighting over wrestling, watching Monday nights. I told you I love dad stories. I love the stories about how everybody gets involved in professional wrestling. We love talking matches and training and everything like this, but these are the meat and potato stories that everybody loves to hear about professional wrestling and a rising star like CJ right now. Infamous is amazing. CC's number 1. CJ number 2, and I guess there's another person that's involved in Infamous. I guess we'll have to reach out to this Jack guy to see if he'll come back around and come on Can Crushers, but I don't know. He's just a hard man to get a hold of, apparently, is what we hear. Unbelievable interview. Really can't wait till we get to chat with CJ again. Guys, make sure you follow what he's doing. Go head over to his YouTubes, watch his matches, connect with him on Instagram, help him build up his following as well, because, guys, we love having young wrestlers on the show, because later down the line, it's so cool when somebody like Nikita Knight turns into Thea Hale, and we've had her on the show, or a Britt Baker or a Wardlow, and we get to know them here on Can Crushers, and then they are, boom, blown up everywhere else. Just telling you, it's really cool. Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called the garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, because you never know.